I find that wearing a mask is so inconvenient. It totally messes up my hair and makeup. How did they do this for such a long time back in 2020?
I realize that it is 20 years later, but if we are really going to report on the 20th anniversary of the great pandemic, we really need to experience this.
Places going live. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, America. Welcome to a very special night of history and remembrance. I'm your host, Jack Leonard, of the OLH News Team.
Y yo soy Emily Tovar, subrepresentadora de las noticias. And I'm Emily Tovar, your co-host. I'm intrigued at all we have discovered as we prepared for this special. You and I were very young back in 2020, so we might not remember all the details.
Here we are, 20 years later, looking back at history.
In the spirit of the anniversary of the pandemic, social distancing will be observed, masks worn, and most of our reports done by Zoom. Let's head over to one of the most important figures of times, Dr. Anthony Oliver, one of today's most esteemed infectious disease specialists. Happy to have you here, Doctor.
We have been so busy these days, Emily. It is a pleasure to get out of the lab.
The pandemic must have been very difficult for everyone, especially healthcare workers.
It was very hard for people to understand that we were all in this together. The virus was the enemy, not people. We needed everyone to follow the guidelines and be careful about where we went, who we were with, and how we worked together.
Was there one thing that worried you the most, Doctor?
Yes, Emily. Since it lasted so long, people were beginning to forget happiness and joy. There was so much sickness and worry. Even children grew tired of all those days at home. They needed to be with their friends.
Doctor, I heard you had one very special patient this year. He reached out to you around Thanksgiving time. Can you share a little bit of that conversation?
I had a feeling you would ask, so I brought him along. Let him tell you his story.
Ho, ho, ho. Good to see you, Jack, Emily.
Why, Mr. Claus, Santa, Chris, what do they call you these days?
Call me a happy man now. Those days were hard. The first in my life, I was laid off. Unemployed, put on the shelf.
How was that?
Couldn't pose with the kids, couldn't do the parade, even had to quarantine myself from the reindeer. It was a very stressful time. No red suit, got my beard trimmed, and stayed around the house with the missus.
This is a perfect time to welcome you back, Santa. We have just the thing for everyone. A return to the North Pole, to the excitement of Christmas.
Jingle bells and lots of holly, not data. That was all the medicine he needed.
Ho, ho, ho. Let's bring back the joy.
All aboard! All aboard! Avenue. That is not a toy, young man. Young man, that is not a toy. Take your seats, please. Take your seats.
I had forgotten how much fun the holidays could be.
In my family, the religious side of Christmas is most important, and the giving to each other. We have assembled a good team to help put all this in focus. This all started when Marion, the local librarian, found some pretty interesting books in her stack. Why, I remember books. They were quite as heavy as I recall. It's so much easier to have audiobooks and digital reads.
Let's go live, now, to the local library and meet some pretty interesting people.
I am delighted to welcome the viewers to the library. This used to be such a busy place before the pandemic of 2020 changed everything. There were always kids looking for adventure and great books. That was before everything went digital.
I feel so retro. I love wearing masks, just like the old days. My parents told me so much about the pandemic of 2020.
We went to school every day with masks. That was so much better than staying at home on Zoom sessions.
I liked that at first, but 4 months was way too long.
Oh, look, they have mannequins representing those old time books.
Looks like Little Women to me.
You are so right. The first few lines are the most important.
Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents. It's so dreadful to be poor. I don't find it fair that some girls have pretty things and others nothing at all. But we have Mother and Father.
These are some of the most famous lines ever spoken by girls in literature.
I know that Louise May Alcott said she wanted something splendid, something heroic, something that wouldn't be forgotten after she was dead.
That's why she wrote books.
During the pandemic of 2020, libraries closed down, as well as bookstores and even schools. Amazon.com became the prime source for deliveries. Netflix and Hulu were popular as well.
Pardon me, ma'am. Do you have any hard copies of A Christmas Carol? Charles Dickens penned that great book. My son Tim and I would love to know if you have any copies.
English novelists were always so popular, but their characters always seemed so dark and smoky.
Next to Little Woman, A Christmas Carol is my favorite story, especially the ending, when Scrooge finally understands that this is a season of giving.
Not everything British was dark. They also knew how to celebrate, especially with mistletoe, eggnog, and holly and the ivy.
I don't think you'll find anything out of the ordinary in that box. My friends, back in 2020, money was tight, unemployment was high, and people struggled to get great gifts.
Right you are. What they really needed to do was dig deep down. It wasn't about the toys and the fancy cars. It was about these three essentials: faith, hope, and love.
Just what the doctor ordered.
Now listen to me, you guys. This game of baseball is only one half skill. The other half is something else, something bigger. You gotta have heart. All you really need is heart. When the odds are saying you'll never win, that's when the grin should start. You gotta have hope. Mustn't sit around and mope. Nothing's half as bad as it may appear. Wait till next year and hope. When your luck is batting zero, get your chin up off the floor. Mister, you can be a hero. You can open any door. There's nothing to it but to do it. You gotta have heart. Miles and miles and miles of heart. Oh, it's fine to be a genius, of course, but keep that old horse before the cart. First you gotta have heart.
A great slugger we haven't got.
A great pitcher we haven't got. A great ball club we haven't got.
What do we got? We've got heart. All you really need is heart. When the odds are saying you'll never win, that's when the grin should start.
Now you're getting the idea.
We've got hope. We don't sit around and mope. Not a solitary sob do we heave, mister, 'cause we've got hope.
Boys, I'm proud of you.
We're so happy that we're humming.
That's the hearty thing to do.
Ho, 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 'cause we know our ship will come in.
So it's 10 years overdue. Ho, ho, ho. We've got heart. Miles and miles and miles of heart. Oh, it's fine to be a genius, of course, but keep that old horse before the cart.
So what the heck's the use of crying?
Why should we curse?
We gotta get better, 'cause we can't get worse. And to add to it, we've got heart. We've got heart. We've got heart.
Our last guest today is a renowned professor who has studied the human condition. She's an expert of how people react to wars, tragedies, and pandemics. Welcome, Dr. Mead.
My pleasure, Emily. My research over the past 20 years since COVID makes me know that during times of crisis, we need to look at the essentials. Christmas was not taken from Santa or the children. No one robbed us of our freedom. This is a period of time when we need to look for what was truly important.
Would you say that believing in the miracle of Christmas will help?
Or simply that having hope can make things possible?
You are both correct, but we need to look into the history to realize that love is most essential. The Christmas gift, the gift of God's Son, is renewed each and every year.
In those days of 2020, a census was taken. Each family was asked to submit to questions that would be used to establish new policies, programs, and taxes. Families were asked to declare their nation of origin, source of income, and the number of people in each household. The census of 2020 was obscured since it coincided with the COVID pandemic. Census takers were forced with families who had questionable immigration status, lack of employment, homelessness, rejection, and prejudice. The families of 2020 took new forms, but they remained as people, precious in the eyes of God. Shelters and programs were established to provide for those who were ill, homeless, and despairing. Healthcare workers and first responders were overworked as they sought to alleviate pain and fear. It was a time when men and women from all over the globe had to be concerned about each other and seek new ways to share resources and compassion.
No matter how much we study the human condition in history, in the media, or just by observing, we see that nothing was different in 2020 at Christmas time. The story still remains the same. The timeless story of two weary travelers without food or shelter, journeying to a foreign land.
I see. We have a parallel from the Christmas story right here in the Gospels.
In those days, there was a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world, and everyone went to his town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, then to Bethlehem, because he belonged to the house and the line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloth and placed him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Don't be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloth and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to men on whom his favor rests."
Hello. We would like to thank Sister Kathy and everyone involved for an amazing Christmas show.
For some of us, it is our last year at OLH. Some of us, it's our 9th year, but for all of us, it'll be our last.
Thank you, Sister Kathy, for the amazing arts program at OLH to help us not grow just as young people, but also in the arts.
On behalf of the whole class of 2021, we thank you. Thank you.
Dreams are dancing in the children's hearts, hearts are singing, bells are ringing.